The top 3 things I've heard feminists claim are misogynistic.
Ooh, I think I know this one. Everything you say, everything you do, every thought you've ever had. What do I win?
Coming in at number 3, an event seller approaching a group of boys and saying to them, you should come to this event, there's going to be loads of girls.
Right. Attending an event merely because there are women there that you want to objectify when that attention is not appropriate, wanted, or consented to is inherently misogynistic, not to mention predatory.
Number 2, claiming that male-only membership clubs are misogynistic.
So you see, that's because when you take into account the history of why men-only clubs exist.
But the history of men's-only clubs? Oh, f*** off. There's always been men's and women's groups, you cretins.
Okay, so you know the history of women's oppression, you just don't care? Yeah, that would also be misogyny.
Now, coming in at number 1, this is actually a personal story. Last year, I worked as a rep in a hostel, and unfortunately, there were about 4 or 5 Gen Z feminists who left bad reviews of the hostel because they were offended by my opinions on TikTok. And one of these, the worst of all, was a girl who accused me of being a misogynist.
Here's the thing, if every room you walk into smells like dog crap, then perhaps it's time to check your shoes. Similarly, if you find that you are constantly being called out for being a misogynist everywhere you go, at your work, online, in your content, then respectfully, you're the common denominator.
It's not misogyny, you're just f***ing r***s.
So pretending that you are presenting the rational, logical, intelligent argument doesn't work if you then turn around and behave like a teenage edgelord, more toxic than a Call of Duty lobby, venting his frustration that mom got the wrong kind of Pop-Tarts. This is frankly embarrassing behavior for a grown-ass adult. It's also hilarious to complain about being unfairly labeled a misogynist while you're actively baiting with a misogynist caption. Me Too really is so dumb. When the reality is the only men who have to worry about women speaking up about abuse they face are the men doing the abuse. You are 8 times more likely to be exonerated for murder than for SA, yet men don't spend their days trying to defend men accused of murder. Why? Well, because they know they are highly unlikely to ever be in that situation. They don't talk about wanting to commit it. They don't joke with their friends about wanting to commit it. And we recognize for the most part that it is deeply disturbing when men entertain themselves to video content that simulates it. But suddenly, when it comes to SA, a certain type of man gets very nervous. The type of man who doesn't think that objectifying women is misogynistic, who doesn't listen to women when they tell him they feel unsafe, and dismisses them as over-emotional, cretins. Oh, that type of man gets very loud about why women shouldn't be listened to and can't be believed because he's very concerned that one day that could be him. So since there appears to be some confusion, let me give you an example of something that definitely isn't misogynistic. Listening to women, actually hearing their concerns and understanding that while you might not agree, you might have some behaviors and actions that make people feel unsafe or unwelcome around you. And being a secure, emotionally mature adult, you take that feedback on board so that people around you don't feel unsafe. Because you know who doesn't get called a misogynist? Men who don't behave like misogynists. Now, an actually rational, intelligent, and logical man would have connected those 2 dots. Worth considering.